Hello everyone from snowy Moscow. Today is 12th of December. Now it's 9:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. And I will start with this report of RT, although all the other media outlets here in Russia pay attention to this topic, of course, which is that Ukraine, formerly Ukraine, or Kiev regime, in reality, Pentagon, US militaries conducted yet another long-range strike deep into Russian territory. This happened with the ATACMS missiles, by the way. This happened yesterday, early morning, although it took quite a while before officials here in Russia confirmed that during this ATACMS, US-made ATACMS missiles were used. And towards late afternoon, Russian Defense Ministry come up with a statement about it. So let's go through this statement, part of it at least. So Ukrainian forces fired a barrage of 6 US-made ATACMS missiles at the military airfield near the southern Russian city of Taganrog on Wednesday. Defense Ministry in Moscow has said, vowing retaliation for the attack. 2 of their missiles were shot down, while other 4 were affected by electronic warfare measures, and they missed the target, according to ministry. Although, same time, this statement says that unspecified number of Russian servicemen were injured during that attack by failing fragments of their missiles. So that's what Russian Defense Ministry is saying. So this is, if I remember correctly, 5th long-range strike deep into Russian territory with the long-range, with the Western-made long-range weapon systems. And as you know, Russian leadership was very clear that whenever such attacks will take place, Russia will consider it as direct attack of countries that these missiles are made. Because without direct involvement of militaries of those countries, Kiev regime on its own would not be able to conduct such strikes. Russian president himself was very clear on this topic, right? Now question is how will Moscow respond? This is the first attack that took place after phone conversation between Valery Gerasimov, head of Russia's General Staff, and his US counterpart. That conversation took place on 27th of November, I believe. Well, now question is how Moscow will respond. Defense Ministry is, promising retaliation for this attack, but in this statement of Defense Ministry, it is, clearly highlighted, kind of, that it was Ukrainian forces, EU regime that fired these missiles. Nowhere mentioning of US militaries that were involved directly, obviously, to conduct these strikes. So therefore, even if Russian armed forces receive an order from political leadership to carry out a retaliatory strike, probably this strike will take out some logistical or military infrastructure of the Kiev regime on Kiev-controlled territory. Maybe some energy facilities will be targeted, but of course, this retaliatory step, let's say, will not deter Western ruling class for sure from further escalation and further long-range strikes against Russia, because we all understand that only language Western ruling class knows is a language of force, and until there are no consequences for them, for their actions, they will continue with escalation. And I'm afraid if Russia maintains current approach of constant restraint when it comes to, countermeasures against Western ruling class, then I'm afraid Western ruling class will be further emboldened by the impunity with which they are conducting themselves, and they will go ahead with the next phase of escalation, which is going to be transformation of Kiev regime into a nuclear armed regime. And then in a couple of months time, when that will happen, Russia will face nuclear blackmail because Kiev will officially state that they are now nuclear armed, and they might even start deploying nukes. By the way, this is I believe this is a real threat. After all, it is clearly not random stuff that Western so-called media outlets, Western officials, for quite a while now are actively working on creation of this new narrative that Kiev regime has capabilities to build its own nuclear weapons, right? Atomic bombs and so on. So I guess Russia. My answer on the question, will Russia retaliate? My answer is Russia might retaliate against Kiev regime. We might see strikes on Kiev-controlled territory, on some military or logistical infrastructure, on energy infrastructure. Strikes that happen every now and then anyways. And Russia maybe even against some decision-making centers of the Kiev regime in Kiev or elsewhere. But when it comes to possible Russian retaliation against US militaries, because in this particular case US militaries were involved to conduct this long-range strike on Russia, I don't think Russia will retaliate against US militaries. And I don't think Russia will retaliate against British militaries, for example, or French militaries when they will launch Storm Shadow and Scalp EG missiles to strike deep into Russian territory. And therefore, I don't think Western ruling class will even think about de-escalating, right? Because yet again, only language they understand is a language of force. That's how it is. You share your opinion, dear friends, or what you think, how Russia will react on this, yet another long-range attack, but we will find out. And so, yes, let's go through some other news, by the way, because I think Russian leadership is in kind of informational trap now, because many people really believe that once Trump will get to office, things will change, and Trump will and his administration will really start de-escalating. I don't believe in that. But if Russian leadership believes that once Trump is in office, he might de-escalate, then of course, no matter how many long-range strikes gonna take place from now to 20th of January, probably Russia will take no action against to deter, strong action to really deter Western ruling class. After 20th of January, when these long-range strikes continue and when Trump will further escalate, actually, which seems absolutely inevitable to me, by the way, right now. After that, of course, Moscow will have difficulties to justify further exercise of restraint. But for now, at least, Peskov may come out, press spokesman of the Russian president, and said that, and make some argument that, Biden's administration is trying to derail potential de-escalation, and therefore Moscow will act cautiously before new administration will be in place. And okay, many people may see logic behind such an approach if they believe US really is run by presidents and their policies are shaped by the president, but I don't believe in that. I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that US and many other countries in collective West are run by shadow forces, not by presidents, not by prime ministers or parliaments, but certain shadow forces that are pulling the strings. And last 4 years of Biden's presidency was clear demonstration of that, right? What else do we need to realize? That those countries in the West that always, that love to talk about democracy and their people's rule and stuff. All those countries are run by some shadow dodgy forces, right? And yet again, last 4 years of Biden's administration was a clear demonstration of that. Anyways, if you ask my personal take, I'm supporter of a strong response. If it was up to me, dear friends, I would issue a strong warning once on the very first day when special military operation started, and I will warn everybody that if from any country in this world, even a single bullet, by the way, not the tanks, armored personnel carriers, jets, missiles, and even if single bullet cross the border with this former Soviet Republic, I will obliterate that country. That would be my only warning on the very first day of special military operation. And even if single bullet will cross the border, I will act on my promise. I will literally obliterate that country. That's how I would act. So therefore, of course, you can understand that I am in favor of strong actions. I don't think just statements are enough to deter Western ruling class. No, statements not gonna do much. But when you smash their faces of those so-called elites in the West, right? Okay, then they will realize that, oh, they are on the line of fire here, right? And they will act differently because they are not suicidal. They are not suicidal, by the way. And I think they are afraid to die. Me personally, I don't afraid to die. I can die today, man. I will die happy, man. Can Western ruling elites say the same? Are they ready to die today? I don't think so. Anyways, let's continue, man. I'm a bit frustrated, as many of you are probably, because we all know what is need to be done, right? We all understand what is need to be done, but I mean, all we see is constant exercise of restraint from Moscow, restraint, and meanwhile, Western ruling class is escalating. Unfortunately, if this approach of Moscow continues, just give it another like 3 to 5 months, and the Kyiv regime will openly say that they have atomic bombs now, and they will start threatening us with their nukes. Mark my word, by the way. So only way to deter Western ruling class from that next phase of escalation, transformation of Kyiv regime into a nuclear armed regime, is to act strongly, and act strongly now. There is no statements needed no more. Actions are needed. Anyways, let's continue. Orban, meanwhile, spoke with the Russian president after he had a meeting with Trump. Yet again, this news clearly demonstrates this false narrative that was created mainly by Western propaganda, but Russian media also participated in that once Trump will get to office, things will change and stuff, which is, which is trap, by the way. It's mind game, right? And I guess Orban and Trump himself probably also are in the same trap. They probably believe that Trump, once Trump is in office, things might de-escalate, although this is not going to be the case. Even if Trump will come up with some initiatives towards the escalation, his initiatives will be sabotaged from within, right, in the US. And we will see it, by the way, we will see it. But anyways, let's go through this news here. Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban discussed their key issues, including the Ukraine conflict, during a phone call on Wednesday. Earlier in the week, Orban met with US President-elect Donald Trump and members of his inner circle trade and particular energy cooperation were the focus of the first part of the call. The Kremlin said. Then two leaders discussed the Ukrainian conflict, with Orban expressing interest in helping to find the political diplomatic ways for resolving it. And I guess Orban potentially or possibly delivered to Putin some message or messages from Trump, because yet again, your friends, I believe it's not just Russian leadership might be in that informational trap that after 20th of December, January, things will change. Orban himself and Trump himself probably are in the very same trap, and they also believe that they will be able to de-escalate, but unfortunately they would not, because Western ruling class, true rulers of the West, have enough means to sabotage any initiative towards the escalation that Trump will come up with. And by the way, there is quite a lot of time before from now and 20th of January, right? And unfortunately, Western ruling class might use this time to escalate with Russia so much so that once Trump is in office, he would not be even, he would not be able even to, do anything really. And after all, if he is for the escalation, I mean, where is the statements? I mean, he can do at least one or two statements, right? Why he is not calling Russian president? Why? He's about to become a president in the US, right? He himself said that he had a conversation with some 70 or something leaders from worldwide since his victory during that so-called elections. And well, why he did not call Russian president? If he is all about de-escalating. So anyways, man, I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing these false narratives being created and then pushed over the public when and media also, by the way, when we are basically forced to read all this nonsense and comment on that and spend time on on finding out what is the true, what is the not, and what is the real intentions of the Western ruling class. Anyways, time will tell. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that Zelensky refused to agree on Orban's initiative about Christmas truth. Okay. I guess Prime Minister of Hungary proposed Christmas truth to both sides, and Zelensky was quick to refuse that. So there is no need for Moscow to even comment on that now. Interfax is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated Plokhovo and Darino settlements in the Kursk salient area. Of course, I reported earlier about progress of the Russian armed forces in Kursk salient area, but now Defense Ministry officially is confirming this news. This is Plokhovo, by the way, on our southern eastern side of this Kursk salient, and this is Darino on the southern western part of this salient. Of course, progress of the Russian counter-terrorist operation in the Kursk salient area continues, as progress of the Russian armed forces in general, not just in zone of counter-terrorist operation in the Kursk salient, but all along the front line in zone of special military operation. Also, we have this report that today Macron and the Polish Prime Minister will discuss deployment of peacekeepers into Kyiv-controlled territory once ceasefire will achieve there. I don't know what is. I find it a bit difficult to understand what the hell is going on with this topic of deployment of European troops as a sort of peacekeepers. into Ukraine. Maybe we are observing preparations of the NATO member states to occupy Western Ukraine. Maybe that's what it is. And you know my take on the topic. I believe once this conflict will end, Western Ukraine will be controlled by NATO, directly or indirectly, but will be controlled by NATO. And then territories of that western parts of Ukraine will be claimed by Poland, Hungary, and Romania, at least some territories. And the rest of the Ukraine will be controlled by Russia, directly or indirectly. That's my understanding of the situation. And of course, between Western Ukraine and the rest of the territory, there will be some demilitarized zone, and maybe all these talks in the West about deployment of European troops, European or NATO troops into Ukraine, is about that demilitarized zone that will be controlled potentially by NATO troops. But if these psychos that formally are in charge of NATO member states think that they can deploy troops into the rest of the territory of this former Soviet Republic, then well, that's direct war with Russia, isn't it? And Moscow was very clear that Russia has no interest in temporary solutions. Russia has no interest in freezing the conflict. Moscow wants final solutions to be achieved, crisis to be resolved forever. So therefore, I don't think we're gonna see any ceasefire or truce in zone of special military operation anytime soon. At least until Western ruling class and their proxies in Ukraine will capitulate. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Kyiv regime's forces created a number of concentration camps in the Kursk salient area, and about 1,100 civilians are kept in these concentration camps by Ukrainian Nazis and their NATO mercenaries. These camps are created in the Suja settlement and also in the village of Oleshnya and the village of Yunatovka. These are villages in Suja district. Well, I guess Russian side will do whatever is possible to, of course, liberate these people. And I'm quite sure Russian security services will hunt down every single Nazi and the fascist that was involved in this crime. No matter how long it will take, but everybody who was involved in this crime against civilians should be exterminated. RT is reporting that nothing will be left of frozen Russian assets, according to Kaja Kallas, to send it back to Russia. Well, why am I not surprised, by the way? And meanwhile, we have this report also that US will transfer to Kyiv regime another $20 billion as a sort of credit, which will be secured with the frozen Russian assets. Profits from frozen Russian assets. Russian leadership, Russian officials called this decision of Washington as a theft, as a robbery, which it is, of course, but at the same time, none of us are surprised. As none of us are surprised to hear from new head of EU diplomacy, extreme Russophobe, extreme xenophobe, Nazi, fascist element, Kaja Kallas, that nothing will be left from frozen Russian assets in Europe to send it back to Russia, because these assets will be stolen. They will call it, transfer of assets to rebuild Ukraine or whatever, but I mean, in reality, it's theft. That's what it is. No matter what kind of justification they're gonna come up with, this is a theft, and the world sees this. right? And therefore, no one should be surprised in Europe that there is less and less investments in European economies, European financial and banking system from outside, outside of collective West, because people no longer trust them, right? As they, which is quite understandable. I mean, how you can trust an extremely weaponized financial and banking system of the collective West, where your assets can be stolen at any point, right, by these so-called politicians there. Anyways, dear friends, before I continue, let me notice that this project is completely subscriber funded, and if you like my work, if you think I deserve to stay in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with a small donation through PayPal or Boosty platform. This is a Boosty platform, by the way. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it does not, but after my account was cancelled on Buy Me Coffee, I had no option but to use Boosty, right? So yes, you can donate through PayPal, Boosty, through crypto, or by you can support by subscribing to my page on Patreon, where I have quite a lot of additional extra content, news updates, and some other videos. Right, so yes, all the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And now this news, Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Israel destroyed their tens of planes and helicopters in Syria that was left by Syrian militaries. Also, Israel is conducting strikes to take out warehouses, military warehouses, munition depots. Syrian fleet navy was basically completely destroyed as a result of Israeli strikes. I shared on my Telegram video of remnants of some of the vessels from Syrian navy that were destroyed, obliterated by Israeli forces. And I guess these strikes will continue by Israeli Air Force on targets inside the Syria, because well, it is understandable that Israeli militaries don't want these terrorists that overrun Syria to gain to have their hands on long-range weapons that Syrian Arab army had, right? So I guess these strikes will continue for a while, and same time Israel is also creating additional buffer zones. They were claiming that Golan Heights was a buffer zone, but now Netanyahu is saying that Golan Heights are part of Israel forever. Therefore, additional buffer zone need to be created to secure Golan Heights, and therefore Israeli forces moving in further and further in the borderline regions, and are about 20 kilometers away from Damascus, according to some reports. Although Israel itself is denying these claims that Israeli forces are some 20 kilometers away from Damascus, but many media outlets, many independent sources are claiming that that's exactly the case. Also, dear friends, Russian Foreign Ministry is recommending to Russian citizens to avoid travel to US due to risks that they might be unlawfully detained in this country. TASS news agency reports that ambassadors of EU member states agreed on 15th package of EU sanctions against Russia. So soon this 15th package probably will be introduced. RT is reporting that US re-adding aggressive sanctions on Russian oil US President Joe Biden's administration is preparing harsher sanctions against Russian oil just weeks before Donald Trump returns to the White House. Bloomberg has reported the details of a new restrictions are yet to be finalized, but Washington is looking to target some Russian oil exports, the outlet said on Wednesday, citing people familiar with the matter. Okay, more sanctions. I mean, these idiots are unable to learn, isn't it? They already imposed some 20,000+ sanctions, right? And they still think, by the way, that if they will add a little more, then Russian economy will, gonna collapse. And you cannot comment on that seriously, man. These are imbeciles. Western ruling class in general is morons, right? Whoever is really in charge in the West, they are, of course, despicable, uneducated, extremely stupid elements, right? And that's why Western world is experiencing, deterioration in all possible ways, right? For decades now. And of course, puppets of those imbeciles that are in charge of West are also stupid fucking idiots. Imbeciles too, right? Including this Biden and whatever is individuals are around him. These morons, by the way, they cannot learn nothing, right? They can impose another 100,000 sanctions. Who cares, man? At this point, nobody cares, right? And there are countries outside of the collective West, they made their choice already. They are cooperating with Russia because they know Russia is on the right side of history, and they are standing with us. Some countries, leadership of some countries may just too afraid to say so openly, but some other countries don't afraid and they say it openly, right? So where world stands with Russia, 80% of humanity stands with Russia. So therefore, no matter what kind of sanctions these idiots gonna come up in the White House or wherever, they're not gonna achieve much. All they will achieve with this stupidity of their policies is that they will further isolate collective West from rest of the world. That's all it is, really. And I will end this update, by the way, on this news that Moscow eases visa rules for African countries. So Russia has announced an expansion of their list of countries whose nationals are eligible for its single entry electronic visa, including 3 African countries, Kenya, Eswatini, and Zimbabwe. And well, when I was reading this news, by the way, I was kind of a bit surprised that I didn't know Eswatini, by the way. Let's be direct here. I was thinking, what is Eswatini, by the way? What is Eswatini? And I had to, search, by the way, because I need to know. And this is a small, tiny country, by the way, which is bordering South Africa from south, west, and the north, and Zimbabwe from east. This is Eswatini. Swaziland, that's another name, I believe. Swaziland. So yes, I knew about Lesotho, country that is completely engulfed by South Africa, and I heard about Swaziland, of course, right? But this Eswatini name, well, that was quite something that, So that's it, by the way. Swaziland, yes, I heard Swaziland, but official name is Eswatini for the country, with the capitals in Babane and Lobamba. 2 capitals, by the way. Interesting. So yes, nationals of Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Eswatini can travel to Russia easier than before, which is great, by the way. And I hope relationships between the countries will further improve, and there will be huge rise in tourism, because I mean, from what I know, uh, all three countries here, by the way, Kenya, Eswatini or Swaziland, and Zimbabwe, these are wonderful countries, by the way, with their amazing nature. Um, Fantastic place to travel and see, uh, and many Russians, of course, when they will travel, and I guess these countries will ease travel for Russian tourists also. Of course, when Russians will travel, they will be amazed how beautiful these countries are. And of course, citizens of these countries will be amazed by Russia, because there are so many nice places here to see, right? So good news. I want to end this update on this positive, good news. Hopefully you will find the update interesting, informative, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. This is the only way we can at least try and influence algorithm, which is, you know, quite unfair and aggressive, especially towards independent channels from Russia. And for that reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends on internet or in real life, or share videos of mine. And well, that's about it. If you like my work, and if you want to support, you can do it. All the links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.